Hi children, today we will start a new lesson. What is the name of the lesson? Algebraic expression. Now tell me children, how do we write the sum of 3 and 5 in mathematical way? We know that the word sum means what? Addition, is it? So how will we write 3 and 5? Sum of 3 and 5, that means 3 plus 5, is it? The word sum means what? Addition. So we can write this as 3 plus 5 in mathematical way. And we know that this is an expression and it has only numbers. So we can call this as numerical expression. So only numbers we can call it as numerical expression. Numerical expression. So if it is only numbers in an expression, we can call it as numerical expression. Now tell me, how do we write the sum of a number and 7? We don't know what is that number. So what we can use? We can use a letter in its place and we can write it as x plus 7, is it? In mathematical way, we can write it as x plus 7, and we know that this x can take any numerical value. That means its value keeps changing, or we can say it does not have a fixed value. So we can call this x as variable. What is the name? Variable. So what do you mean by variable? Variable means it does not have a fixed value. Why we are calling x as a variable? Because depending upon the situation, the value of x changes. That's why we are calling x as a variable. Variable means what? It does not have a fixed value. Okay. And what about the number 7? What about the number 7? 7 means what? The value of 7 is always 7 itself. It will not never equal to 7 is not equal to 8 or 8.1. That means it has a fixed value. The value of 7 is always 7 itself. That means it has a fixed value, or we can say the value remains same. So we can call this as constant. Constant means what? It has a fixed value. So variable means what? Does not have a fixed value. Constant means what? It has a fixed value. And we know that this is an expression. This is an expression contains variables and constants, and we can call this expressions as algebraic expression. What is the name? Algebraic expressions. So expressions that contain variables and constants are called algebraic expressions. So if it is only numbers, we can call it as numerical expressions. If variables and constants are there, we can call it as algebraic expression. Variable means what? It does not have a fixed value. That means it can take any numerical value. Constant means what? It has a fixed value. Generally variables are denoted by the small letters of English alphabet. Okay. So what do you mean by algebraic expression? Expressions that contain variables and constants are called algebraic expressions. Expressions that contain variables and constants are called algebraic expressions. And we use the operations of addition. We use the operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, which are the 4 arithmetic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, on the variables and constants to form expressions. I hope it's clear now. Expressions that contain variables and constants are called algebraic expressions, and for forming the algebraic expressions, we will use 4 arithmetic operations, at least 1 operations. Okay. So which are the 4 arithmetic operations? Addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. So what we can say, we use the operations addition, subtraction, multiplication and division on the variables and constants to form expressions. Now what do you mean by variable? Variable means what? It does not have a fixed value, and I already told you we are generally denoted by the small letters of English alphabet. So which are the variables here? X is a variable, P is a variable, Y is a variable. Why we can call it as a variable? Because it can take any numerical value. It does not have a fixed value. I hope it's clear now. So, in algebraic expressions, letters represent variables, and variable means what? A variable does not have a fixed value. It can take any numerical value depending upon the situation. The value of the variable changes. That's why we are calling it as a variable. Okay. Now, what about constants? Constants I told you. Constants means what? It has a fixed value. That means its value remains same. So, what we can say, children, constants are the terms in algebraic expressions that contain only numbers. That contain only numbers. That's very important. Okay. So, if there is a variable, they are the terms without the variable. That statement is more important. Constants are the terms without variables. Why we are calling it as constants? We call them constants because why we are calling them as constants? We call them constants because their value never changes since there are no variables in the term. That's why we are calling it as a constant. Now look at this example, 3xy plus 8. Here which is the constant here? Here 8 is the constant. Here 8 is the constant. 3 is not a constant because there is a variable there. So, if the value of the variable changes, the value of the term will change. So, constant means what? It's a number without a variable. Okay. Now, look at the next part. Now, one of the most important concept in algebraic expression is the concept of terms. Suppose 4. It's just only a single term, is it? Now, what about x? Again, a single term. What about 4x? 4x means what? 4 into x. Does this mean these are two terms? No, this is a single term. Now, what about the term 4 by x? 4 by x means what? One single term divided by another single term gives only one term. This is also one term. Now, what about the term 4 plus x? 4 plus x. There are two terms in this expression and we can say that the operator addition sign separate the terms. So, we can say that there are two terms in this expression and the operator addition sign separate the terms. Like the same way, 5 minus x. 5 minus x means what? There are two terms, first term, second term. There are two terms and the subtraction sign separate the terms. Okay. So, what we can conclude, children? Addition sign and subtraction sign. What we can conclude? Addition sign and subtraction sign separate the terms. Addition sign and subtraction sign separate the terms. But remember, children, multiplication sign and division sign do not separate the terms. Okay. Do not separate the terms. So, addition sign and subtraction sign separate the terms. Multiplication sign and division sign do not separate the terms. That's why we are saying there are two terms in this expression. Like the same way, here also there are two terms in this particular expression. Here it is only one term and here also 4 by x means what? It's just one term. Okay. Now, what we can say, terms are added to form expressions. What is the meaning of the statement? What is the meaning of the statement? 4x plus 5. Look at the expression 4x plus 5. In forming this expression, we can say that we first formed 4x separately. 4x means what? 4 into x. 4x means it's a product of 4 and x and we added 5 to it. So, you can see that these expressions have parts which are formed separately and these parts are called terms of the expression. That means this is one term, this is the next term. Okay. So, these expressions have parts in it. So, we can call these parts are terms of the expression. So, What you can conclude, children, terms are added to form expression. Terms are added to form expression. Suppose if there is a negative sign also, form 4x minus 5. This negative sign belongs to the next term. That's why we are saying terms are added to form expressions, not added or subtracted. This means what? This is nothing but 4x plus negative 5. This negative sign belongs to the second term. So, this expression have parts in it, and these parts are called terms of the expression, and we can say that terms are added to form expressions. Okay. Now, how many terms are there? Just find out how many terms are there. Look at the first question. How many terms are here? This is the first term and this is the second term. So, how many terms? And we already studied addition sign and subtraction sign separate the terms. But remember, multiplication sign and division sign do not separate the terms. Okay. Now, here how many terms are there? First term, second term, third term. So, how many terms? 3 terms are there. What about here 8x by y? I already told you division sign. Here multiplication and division is there, and we already studied multiplication and division do not separate the terms. So, it's nothing but only one term. Only one term. And what about the last expression? How many terms are there? First term, second term, third term. So, how many terms are there? 3 terms. Okay. So, addition sign and subtraction sign separate the terms, multiplication sign and division sign do not separate the terms, and we can say that terms are added to form expressions. Okay. Now, look at this example 4x square. And we know that this is a term, this is a single term. In forming this expression or forming this term, we know that 4x square means what's the product of 4x and x, is it? 4x square means what? It's a product of 4x and x, is it? So, we can call this as factors, we can call this as factors of the term. Or you can say that a term is a product of its factors. What you can say, children? A term is a product of its factors. 4x square means what? It's a product of 4x and x. That means 4x square. So, we can say these are the factors of this particular term. What you can say? A term is a product of its factors. A term is a product of its factors. So, terms are added to form expressions, and a term is a product of its factors. So, which are the factors of 3xy? We can see 3xy means what? It's the product of 3x and y. So, which are the factors of 3xy? 3xy are the factors of the term 3xy. Okay. Now, 4x square minus 3xy. This is an algebraic expression. This is an algebraic expression. This is an algebraic expression, and we also studied addition sign and subtraction sign are dividing the expressions into different terms and separating terms. So, we will represent terms by using continuous lines. Terms. Which are the terms of this expression? Which are the terms of this expression? 4x square is the first term, and I have told you terms are added to form expression. That means the negative sign belongs to the next term. So, what we can say? Negative 3xy. So, terms we are representing by using continuous line. Now, we have to write the factors of this term, factors of this expression. Factors we will use by using dotted line. Factors we will represent by using dotted line. Okay. Now, 4x square means what? 4x square is a product of 4x and x. So, we can say which are the factors of the term 4x square? 4xx are the factors of the term 4x square. Like that same way, negative 3xy. Which are the factors of negative 3xy? We can say negative 3xy. Negative 3xy means what's the product of negative 3x and y. So, what we can say? These are the factors of this particular term. Okay. I hope it's clear. This is an algebraic expression. Addition sign and subtraction sign is separating the terms. So, how many terms are in this expression? First term, second term. There are two terms in this expression. We will represent by using a factor tree. When you are drawing a factor tree, try to represent the terms by using continuous line and factors by using dotted line. Okay children? Now the next important topic of this lesson is coefficient. What do you mean by coefficient? Simply we can say coefficient means what? A numerical factor is said to be the numerical coefficient, or you can simply say it's the coefficient of the term. Okay, numerical factor is said to be the numerical coefficient, or you can simply say the coefficient of the term. And it is also said to be the coefficient of the rest of the term. It is also said to be the coefficient of the rest of the term. What do you mean by that? Look at example 5xy. We already studied a numerical factor is said to be a numerical coefficient, or simply you can say coefficient. Now here, which is the number here? 5 is the number. So what you can say? 5 is the coefficient of this particular term. 5 is the coefficient of this particular term. Or you can say it is also said to be the coefficient of the rest of the term, is it? So what you can say? It is also the coefficient of, what you can say? 5 is also the coefficient of xy. Okay, so 5 is the coefficient of this term, we can say. Also we can say 5 is the coefficient of xy. I hope it's clear. Now look at this example 10xyz. Which is the numerical coefficient? Which is the numerical coefficient? 10 is the numerical coefficient, or you can say 10 is the coefficient of the term. 10 is the coefficient of this term. 10 is the coefficient of the term. 10 is the coefficient of the term, or you can say 10 is the coefficient of xyz. 10 is the coefficient of xyz. Like the same way, which is the coefficient of this particular term, negative 7 x square y square, we can say negative 7 is the coefficient of this term, or you can say negative 7 is the coefficient of x square y square. I hope it's clear. Coefficient means what children? Coefficient means a numerical factor is said to be a numerical coefficient. It is also said to be the coefficient of the rest of the term. That's why we are saying 5 is the coefficient of this complete term, or you can say 5 is the coefficient of xy. Like the same way we can say 10 is the coefficient of this complete term, or you can say 10 is the coefficient of xyz. Like the same way we can say negative 7 is the coefficient of this complete term, or you can say negative 7 is the coefficient of x square y square. Okay, negative 7 is the coefficient of x square y square. Now the important thing is when a coefficient of a term, when the coefficient of a term is plus 1, usually we will omit that. Okay, it is usually omitted. That means 1x. 1x is always written as x itself. Like the same way 1x square y square is written as x square y square. 1x square y square is written as x square y square. Okay. So if the coefficient of a term is 1, it is usually omitted. We will not write that. Simply we will write x. That means the coefficient is 1. Okay, like the same way negative sign is there. If there is negative 1 also, we will represent by using a minus sign. If there is negative sign in a term, we will represent. The coefficient of negative 1 is indicated by minus sign. That means negative 1x, we will write it as negative x. Like the same way negative 1x square y square, we will write it as negative x square y square. Okay. So negative 1x, we will write it as negative x. Like the same way negative 1x square y square is written as negative x square y square. And in general we can say a coefficient may be either a numerical factor, or an algebraic factor. Generally we can say a coefficient may be either a numerical factor or an algebraic factor, or you can say it's a product of the two or more factors. It is a product of two or more factors. and it is also said to be this is very important, it is also said to be the coefficient of the product of the remaining factors. We already studied factors, is it? So, a coefficient, generally what we can say, a coefficient may be either a numerical factor or an algebraic factor, and you can say a product of two or more factors, and it is said to be the coefficient of the product of the remaining factors. What does it mean, children? Consider the term 5xy. What you can say, 5 is the coefficient of the term, we can say 5 is the coefficient of the term. 5 is the coefficient of this particular term, we can say, or you can say 5 is the coefficient of xy. 5 is the coefficient of xy, or you can say x is the coefficient of 5y, or you can say y is the coefficient of 5x. Y is the coefficient of 5x. Okay, so what you can say, 5 is the coefficient of the term, we can say. Also we can say 5 is the coefficient of xy, we can say, or you can say x is the coefficient of the remaining factors, x is the coefficient of 5y, or you can say y is the coefficient of 5x. That is the meaning of the sentence. It is also said to be the coefficient of the product of the remaining factors. So, generally what you can say, a coefficient may be either a numerical factor or an algebraic factor, or we can say product of two or more factors, or it's a coefficient means the product of the remaining factors also. I hope all these topics are clear. So, what do you mean by algebraic expressions? Algebraic expressions means expressions that contain variables and constants are called algebraic expressions. And what do you mean by variable? Variable means what? It does not have a fixed value, but on the other hand, constant means what? It has a fixed value. And all the letters we are representing by using variables, generally we are denoted by the small letters of English alphabet. Okay, constant means what? All our number without variable are called constants. And which is the next thing we studied? Terms. Terms means what? We don't know that terms are added to form expressions. The parts of the expression we can call it as terms, and we know that terms are added to form expression. And we also studied a term is a product of its factors. So, a term is a product of its factors, we can say. And what about coefficient? Coefficient means what? Either a numerical factor or a algebraic factor, or what you can say, it's a product of two or more factors, and it is also said to be the coefficient of the product of the remaining factors. I hope these topics are clear. That's all for today. Thank you.